What is up, guys, and welcome back to not the All Sorts podcast, but a variant of it. This is going to become another mini series. It is going to be the All Sorts podcast, but it will just be me, and I'm going to be calling this the All Sorts podcast debate club. And you guys can comment down below in these videos any topics that you want me to talk about. Either if it's political events happening at the moment, interesting like sports stories, anything really that you want me to talk about. In this one particularly, I'm going to be talking about and answering the question: is Star Wars dying or dead? And in this video, the topics that will be covered is how Star Wars was, and the fan base surrounding it, and like what games were involved, and sort of the production and stuff behind it. And the second part will be where Star Wars is now, the future of the brand, and whether it's going a little bit too far or whether it's becoming a little bit too woke. Now, I am going into not sensitive, but I'm going into a bit of a debatable topic here. So there may be people who disagree with me entirely in what I'm about to say, and there may be people who agree with me. But let me know in the comments down below where you stand with this, as some of the areas that come about will maybe controversial in areas potentially, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, and before I begin, smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We have now hit 100 subscribers, and I'd now love to keep that wave of subscribers going. So, section 1 of this video is how Star Wars used to be. So originally, Star Wars, the original trilogy, numbers 3, 4, and 5, came out in the 1970s, and then the original trilogy, or Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, they came out in the 1990s, early 2000s. It was almost like Yoda was in charge of the ordering of when the films came out. But anyway, back then those Star Wars stories were very, very, very cool. The hype around them was amazing. My earliest memories of Star Wars is when Dad showed me The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, and my love for Star Wars has grown since then. Although very controversially, as me and Josh have discussed in a previous podcast, the Star Wars special, I'll put a link to it at the top of the screen. I said that I quite liked the newer trilogies, with Rey in it and stuff, and within Star Wars fan base, that's a bit of a 50-50 opinion. But I quite like all the trilogies. I'm not like a love it or hate it guy. I like all the trilogies as much as the others. However, the other section, which I'll get onto later, has gone off the rails a little bit, but I'll continue with that in a second. So obviously we have the original trilogies, which were really, really, really good. The original trilogies were probably what started off a lot of the younger people, younger Star Wars fans, who maybe their dads grew up watching it, or were watching it in the cinema when they were very young, when they first came out. Obviously, the characters themselves have all have really, really good storylines. Obviously, there are a load of fans out there who are huge Anakin Skywalker fans. Obviously, seeing him go through what he did, and then become arguably one of the best villains in all of movie history. As you know, that is Darth Vader. And his storyline, obviously Luke finding out that he is his father, and finding out that Darth Vader is Luke's father, and then him obviously sadly dying at the end of, I don't know if it's Empire Strikes Back or it would be, I think it's the Return of the Jedi, I believe. I don't know the exactly, but remembering how Darth Vader died at the very end, but obviously knowing that there was still good in him was a really, really cool and fun and exciting twist in that. Obviously, we also had sequels and prequels like Rogue One, one of the best sort of prequel sequel films out there. We had some cool origin stories, the Obi-Wan films. We had an Obi-Wan film which came out, which I've only seen once, and it was a very long time ago, but it was a very, very good prequel film. So if you can hear a helicopter or anything going past. These films ignited the spark of what created the fan base that we have today. However, going on to the second section, Star Wars nowadays, I feel like it's dying. Obviously, don't get me wrong, there have been some pretty good Star Wars series. The Mandalorian series, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, they are very good exceptions. But the fact that a lot of these Star Wars films are now films and or series are going on to Disney Plus, a platform in which that not many people either choose to buy or just don't want to watch, means that they miss out on. It means they miss out on series and potential films that could have been accessible if they would have been shown at a widescreen cinema to a much bigger audience. But also, this was in the news very recently. I don't have the article to hand, so I'll recount it as well as I can. Currently in the news, the brand new Star Wars TV series, The Acolyte, has received some pretty bad criticisms, and it's received a lot of controversy in the news recently, be it like with headlines like The Acolyte is killing off Star Wars. There's been a lot of controversy within the TV series, and before YouTube comments and things start complaining that I'm against LGBTQ, that sort of stuff, I'm not against it. I just feel like it's not. I'm just mentioning it because it's relevant to this. A lot of people were commenting about how one of the episodes within the Acolyte series, one of the worst episodes ever made. That the producers of the film were more focusing on trying to put in like generational topics like lesbianism, transgender actors and people into the films rather than making it a traditional Star Wars story. And I said again, I'm not against anything like transgender or lesbian or like LGBTQ, anything like that. But I do have to say I do agree with them. I mean, I don't mind you putting in lesbian actors or having sort of relationships like that in a Star Wars story, but you have to keep the focus on the Star Wars elements. You can have them there, but don't make it the main focal point of what you're trying to produce, because it ruins the spark, and it ruins the creativity and the imagination that Star Wars is all about. Star Wars is about going on these adventures and taking your audience with you with these adventures in these new worlds, etc. These topics that they're including are topics that we all face in the real world. Star Wars and Marvel and movies in general are meant to be an escape from that. That's how I see it anyway. And the second thing with that is the other criticism that The Acolyte had is the fact that they've killed off characters and brought back characters that have already been killed off. Like, for some reason and somehow Emperor Palpatine returned in the Acolyte, or in certain, in like, Emperor Palpatine was in the series when the Acolyte is chronologically is meant to be at the very, very beginning of the Star Wars universe. And Josh can correct me on this, or any of you can correct me on this, but I'm not too deep in Star Wars lore. But I don't think Palpatine was around then, because Darth Plagueis the Wise came before Palpatine, and many other Siths, because the Acolyte is meant to be about the first Jedi and the first Sith, and the transition between those two sectors. I don't think Palpatine was around then. I think he would have been way too young, because he was young-ish in the Phantom Menace films. So the Star Wars universe, I feel like, is dying, and I blame Disney for this. If the solution I have is if they bring back, they continue to make they continue to make the films that they are, but instead of making them TV series that you put onto a platform that you have to pay and subscribe for, instead you make them longer feature films and you produce them out into a cinema environment. And secondly, they could also make more origin films, more prequels and sequels, some characters that may not have been used yet, or, you know, because where's like a Mace Windu origin film? Where's a, you know, like a Poe Dameron origin film? Where's, you know, Princess Leia's origin story? Because we only meet her maybe once or twice in the Phantom Menace trilogy, and then we see her quite a lot in the New Hope and that trilogy. But where we don't really know the origins of Leia. But I don't know, it'd be interesting to see, and maybe that will fix the problem. But yeah, to end off the first mini sort of episode of my debate club, recapping on what I've said, Star Wars used to be good, with the original films, the fan base, all of the games that have recently come out, obviously the original Battlefronts, the Jedi Survivors, the Jedi Fallen Order, they're very, very good games. But I think to fix the solution and to stop Star Wars from dying, they need to scrap Disney Plus. They need to get rid of that series and make them more accessible to us. Make the series more accessible to the average audience, and also make more origin and feature films. And stop making lesbianism and transgender the focal point of your Star Wars series. You can still put it in. You can still put it in. As I said, I'm not against LGBTQ, anything like that. You can still put them in there, as many films do. You have gay actors, lesbian actors, things like that. But the whole focal point of a Star Wars series or film is about the adventure and the world that it creates. That is it for this mini episode of the All Sorts Podcast Debate Club. The next episode will probably be discussing whether Marvel has died. Let me know in the comments if you want me to discuss any topics that are upcoming or anything like that. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.